Eagle Mountain Apostolic Resource Center. To find additional episodes of this program, as well as other content, visit eaglemountain.tv.
I'm going on record right now, I've never had a harebrained idea.
He's had lots of ideas that have hair on them.
Did you just say I've had lots of ideas with hair on them?
Yes. Okay.
Oh my goodness. What?
The devil?
I found him.
Why am I not surprised that he's in here?
He's over here in this bucket. There he is. Mr. Sin! Not bothering us anymore.
How are you doing there, Foxy?
Such a beef wit.
Do you know who you're talking to? I'm Mr. Sin. You can't talk to me like that. You don't have to be rude.
I said beef wit.
Wit, that's even worse. No, I'm not a fan of that, but I am a fan of finding out what you're doing after this show. Maybe we could go grab some drinks or something. What do you say?
No thanks.
Hey everyone, welcome to Together We Build. My name is Chris Behnke. I'm here with Buckley. Hey buddy. He's ignoring me.
Which also has a new middle name now. What was his name? Wafton.
Bucklington, Wafton, Behnke. And Prudence O'Haire. Prudence,
Yes.
what crustacean can grow when intimidating its enemies?
The whole sentence I don't know.
This
about
is a
that.
very serious question.
What?
What crustacean can grow when intimidating its enemies?
Can we define what a crustacean is?
It's like a sea. It's like a sea.
'Cause
It's
I'm
like a
just,
non.
like a
it's
booger or
It's a
something.
non-fish thing, like a crab or a
Non-fish thing.
shrimp. I think shrimp are crustaceans, right, guys? Shrimp,
Okay, crustacean.
crabs, right? Not a whale. That's a mammal. Okay.
I don't know.
Obviously, it's the ghost crab. I'm surprised you didn't know that. Maybe a little bit.
Ghost crab.
Which animal? No. That we only do one of those. Oh no, that's the trivia. I was supposed to ask the opening question. The opening question was, if aliens landed on Earth tomorrow and offered to take you home with them, would you go?
No.
Okay. I would have been shocked if you would have said yes. If you would have said yes, I would have freaked out a tad just to be.
Well, I guess you know me well, don't you?
I know you well with regards to alien captivity. Let's just say that. All right. Let's just do two more trivia questions.
Okay.
So the first one was the crustacean one. Okay. And the second one, which the answer was what? Did you already forget it?
Ghost crab.
Nailed it. Okay. Okay. And the second question is, which animal in a pride does the majority of the hunting?
Oh, it would be the female lions.
Which is correct. Okay. And which animal is known to plant thousands of trees across the world? Which animal is known to plant thousands of trees?
A bears? Is it bears?
A bears?
Bears.
Is that your final answer?
I'm going to say bears.
Squirrels.
Squirrels.
They bury the nuts and then forget where they are, and the tree grows.
That makes sense.
So the absent-minded squirrel is solely responsible. Well, I guess not solely responsible, but is responsible
That is pretty
for
humorous.
reforestation.
That is really clever of how God formulated that.
I love that. He made squirrels forget where they buried their nuts so that the trees could be planted.
Okay.
I'm giving the squirrels a cheer. What do you got there in your book? Is this the book that tests our vocabulary knowledge?
Yeah, no, it's just new words to learn.
I love it.
1,200 words you should know.
1,200.
Sounds smart.
Look how many we've done. Look how far into this book we
No,
are.
I just opened it up and
Okay.
there's a lot of words in here.
What do you
They're
got?
just kind of hard to remember, mostly
Yeah.
because you don't use them.
They're weirdo words.
Okay, so how about this one? Do you know what raise means? R-A-Z-E.
Raise?
Just think about
I think
just think
it's
about like
it's
the English language here and how many
Yeah.
words.
No, raise. I'll tell you what it is.
they
I'll tell you what it is. It's a certain style of Ray-Ban sunglasses worn typically in the late 80s by Hollywood actors and actresses.
I'm afraid that's
Raise.
wrong, and you gave
Raise.
yourself an early chair.
No, that's right. They're called raise.
It means R-A-Z-E means to tear down or demolish.
That's the other meaning.
So this is how it is a sample. We had to raise our Cape Cod home and rebuild it entirely due to some structural damage to the home caused by high winds.
So if I said Buckley is raising trouble in the trailer, then it'd be he's like getting into all of the snacks he's not supposed to be eating.
I don't know if that's
He's demolishing
exactly
the snacks.
Well, anyway, we'll have to practice using that one.
Well, you just I tried to, but you said it was wrong.
I just think that you should just use it in a different format without the ing.
So not raising, raise.
Yeah.
Buckley's gonna raise.
Go raise that guy.
I don't think that's right either. But I'm gonna work at using that word.
Sawyer, go raise the chicken coop.
What does that mean? Destroy it?
Mm-hmm. Because we're going to build a new one. I mean, we don't actually have plans to build a chicken coop or have one currently. But if we did, you know, that could be a way
We are
to use
gonna
this
have
word.
a quail coop.
No,
We're gonna populate it with 317.
I am just going to go ahead and leave the quail in the nature.
Buckley wants a quail snack. Look at him. All right, what is this episode about? We're 7 minutes into this and we don't even know what we're talking about. What are
Yeah.
we doing? What are we going after in this episode, Prudence?
We are going to be talking about a message that you gave last week to our church community on Sunday.
All right. I love that.
And a lot of what was talked about and even shown in pictures was about stones.
Yeah.
And how we as in the church needs to view ourselves as these types of stones. Not to be confused with, being stoned.
You don't want to be stoned.
No.
You want to be a stone.
Because being stoned, we
Not
don't
be
need to go
stoned.
into
You
all
want
the
to
reasons
be
why you shouldn't
stone.
probably be that.
Oh my goodness.
But
You're not getting it. Are you getting the no button for that? Okay.
okay.
All right. So what about it?
Do you have a clip or something we're supposed to watch?
Well, we
Get
could start
started?
with the clip.
You have one?
I have one clip. I just grabbed one clip, but there's lots to go over that's outside of this clip. Let's just start with this clip and we can go from there.
Here, let's start with this.
Let's start with this.
What exactly was your not instigation, your inspiration, your inspiration on
That instigated the
creating
message.
this message?
So
Which, by the way, everyone really, really loved it. Really loved it.
yeah, so you should go watch this. It's called United by Design, Worship Through Our Work. And you can, we'll put that in the show notes. You can go onto eaglemountain.global and watch it, and you should, because it's pro. But so what was the inspiration? So we're in the middle of a series on worship right now. And one of the things that I feel like is misunderstood is what is worship. I think largely people think that worship is singing songs about or to or about a relationship with Jesus. And that is worship, but that's not all that's worship.
It's basically one demonstration of
It's
worship.
one demonstration. It's perfect. It's one demonstration of worship. And so basically what I feel like is important to understand is that we are actually designed to worship God in other ways. One of those ways is actually through our work. And in fact, there's a word called avada or avoda, depending on which YouTube you watch, that says how to pronounce the word. And that word is used interchangeably with both work or service and worship 145 times in Scripture. And it's one of the problems we have with the English language, that a lot of times we just don't have as many words as we should. And so this is a concept that we have separated, that from a biblical perspective, God didn't have separated. And the reason I believe for that, and what I propose in this message, is that God designed every single person uniquely for a particular service on the earth, for a particular reason. So I say this: on purpose, for a purpose, before the foundations of the earth. That's how he designed us. And we're uniquely designed for that. So if I was uniquely designed to be an author, then being an author according to God's design is worship. Now, if I see someone around me that's an author that I really think is cool, and I'm not designed to be an author, let's say I'm designed by God, my mission, the way I'm going to like fulfill my influence on the earth and in the area of society is, let's say, auto mechanic, but I feel like it's more righteous and holy and better to be an author, and I try to be an author when I was made to be a mechanic. That's not worship. Even though I'm trying to do it for the Lord, I'm just like not functioning according to my design. So that was the premise behind the message. And nowhere in that message do I say we should be stoned.
Oh, well, that's good. Because it's, the whole terminology stoned is not great anywhere you slice it and cut and dice it.
You mean if you like throw stones at a person or get buzzed?
Yeah.
Both are bad?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you also talk about, well, you asked this question, you ever ask yourself what would happen if Christians became known for figuring out areas of unity so that they could work together for the kingdom?
Oh, man.
So that's a pretty great question, because I think that it needs to be asked and really massaged by our brains. What would our church community look like if we could work together in unity and flourish without having all of the problems that we seem to have?
I mean, think about it like this. If you were to just look at 1,000 Facebook posts that are in your feed, and you immediately remove all the ads. So there's, let's say, 700 posts left. I don't know what the right ratio is, but it's a lot of it is ads. So you remove all the ads, okay? And then you remove like all of the people that are teaching stuff. At least in my feed, there's lots of people I follow that are like teaching stuff. So you remove all those. Let's say that you're left with 500. So half of the ads are left. Or half of the posts are left. And you look at those posts, and those posts are made up of, in my feed, largely other Christian people, because that's who I'm mostly connected with, which isn't necessarily good, but it's just the truth. So mostly in my feed, it's those people. If you just, and you have the same people, right, Prudence? So like, if you were to look at those posts, and a lot of them are people that I know, and some of them are people that I don't know, but what would you say the percentage of those that is identifying places of division versus identifying places of unity?
Oh, it's so much more fun to find the problems.
I would say it's 90%.
Yeah.
Versus 10%.
Yeah.
So we live in a world where we think it's our job to point out places of division. So sometimes this looks like correcting. Sometimes this looks like pointing out someone else's foolishness. Sometimes this point out something that's wrong in the world. And actually a lot of times it is important to know those things. But like, so I'm not saying it's totally bad to be aware of the things that are wrong or we're in disagreement with, but 90-10 or 95-5 isn't a very good ratio. It's a horrible ratio. We're basically almost 100% focused on things that divide us instead of things that unify us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and so I guess we just kind of have to ask the question, why is that mindset exist and happen so much more than desiring to learn from each other or seek to understand rather than to just wait to respond or like we're just so busy taking up offense everywhere, everything we read, everything we see. It's just I'm offended. And even in like the Christian world, we're offended when somebody tells us that we should be held accountable for something.
We get offended if
we get offended
of being easily offended.
Yeah, we do. We get offended if we come in, 30 minutes late to something that we should have and playing a pivotal part to the whatever we were late for. We get offended if somebody tells us that we were late for that. Mm-hmm. Or we get offended, like we're just ruled, we're overrun with our own opinions on everything. And opinions aren't facts. There are feelings and what we think about something. So when everybody and their dog and their dog's flea and their dog's fleas has an opinion.
He doesn't got any fleas.
That's a lot of opinions.
Yeah.
And you know what the problem with opinions are?
They stink.
Well, there's only room for one. So when we have multiplication of opinions, zillions of them from everyone and everything, there starts to become a lot of problems and issues, and we just start focusing on that, and that becomes our distraction.
Yeah.
Over seeking to think about, well, what if we all just could figure out how to work together in our differences and just focus and stay in our lanes here and do what we need to do and what we were called to do, what we were built to do. And with Jesus as the head cheese in our life, what amazing things we could accomplish.
Yeah. Right. I agree.
Oh, okay. So Ephesians 4:16, from whom the whole body, being fitted and held together by what every joint supplies, according to the proper working of each individual part, causes the growth of the body for the building up of itself in love. Mm-hmm. So you used an example, and maybe you want to just talk about this, about a place that we visited in Ireland.
Yeah.
What was this, 15 years ago?
Yeah.
That we were there. It actually feels like it was a longer amount of time.
2007.
But actually, I was pregnant with our third child when we went. So it's got to be actually more like 16 years ago.
Well, it was in 2007, so.
Yeah, so longer.
It's not worth doing the math right now.
I'm not going to do the math.
Okay.
I'm not getting hung up.
So where are we going with this?
Okay, so go ahead and talk to us about the next thing here.
So you want to talk about the Gallarus Oratory?
Yeah, or if you have a different
No, that's
way you
perfect.
wanna go.
So so in 2007 we were in Ireland, and we visited this place that my mom was like, you gotta go see this place, it's amazing. And what it is, here, let me show some pictures. So this is slide 1. This is a picture you can see. Actually, there's Prudence peeking her head through the back window. Here's slide number 2. Now I want you to look at, that's Prudence like touching the wall of this thing. I want you to just look at these stones, how they're intermingled here. Here we are standing in front of it. And then let's zoom in with slide 4 right over the top of our heads. So this is right over the top of our heads. And you can see these pictures. So I was reminded about this building while working through this concept of how we're interdependent on each other. So you can see these stones, like what's amazing about this structure, it's called the Gallarus Oratory, and it's the only one in Ireland that's still standing, and they're not sure exactly how old it is. They think between 1,300 and 1,500 years old. So I've just been saying 1,300, 1,400 years. So it's 1,400-year-old thing, and it's basically was built by early Christians. It's a tiny little church building, and it's still completely intact. It's still waterproof, and it rains a lot in Ireland, and it doesn't get wet inside. It's amazing. There's no mortar, and what's interesting about it is every single stone had to be perfectly picked, like sourced, picked, and then like chipped and like kind of chunked into place to fit perfectly together for this. So when you think about this concept of how interdependent these stones are, and this is the only one that's still standing in perfect condition. Now, they believe the others have all collapsed because at some point in history, someone pulled out a stone here, a stone there. And when you pull out, there's no mortar. So literally you can grab one and pull it out. Mm-hmm. You pull that stone out, like seems like nothing happens, but over time, the weight distribution changes and it kind of degrades over hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. So this one is still in perfect shape. So if you think about the way we're supposed to function, and this is where I went on the message, I went in a lot more depth, but we'll just high level it here. You think about yourself in society, how you're supposed to function, the way God set it up. And if you think of yourself, let's go to slide 5. This is like you think of yourself as one of these stones. So in this picture, you can see like we've circled a stone. Imagine that's you. Like you're playing a really important role. You're playing a role to all of these stones around you. If we go to slide 6, you're discipling the people that are above you. In other words, you're supporting what they're doing. You're coming up underneath them to hold the weight of what they're doing. This is discipling. This can look like all kinds of different things, but essentially, if you don't do that, those stones collapse in because they need you there for stability. If we go to slide 7, you can see that there's stones on the side. And sometimes if you're not thinking this all the way through, you're like, well, those guys don't really need me. But the truth is they do. So if you see this stone to the left of you, if you disappear, now that stone to the left of you is bearing significantly more weight. It's all the weight you should be bearing. So actually the people that are your peers, it's also critical that you're there because you're helping share the load for the stuff above you. And then if we go to slide 8, there's people that are below you and they're holding you up. Those are mentors and teachers and just the things that have come before that are helping you fulfill your role inside the wall, so to speak, your role inside the world. And if you don't have those or enough of those, or you have the wrong ones because the ones that you wanted to put underneath you are famous or cool or they have better hairstyle, then they're not actually able to come up underneath you in a way that actually supports you. Therefore, you're not able to support the people next to you. Therefore, none of you are able to support the people above you, sort of concept. And if you just kind of go back to slide 5 with the picture of you, you can see that there's a lot in this wall. There's literally just this little part we zoomed in on. There's hundreds of pieces, and that's just how life is as well. There's a lot of pieces all connected together that if they're not functioning well, they can't function well if you are removed from your role in the earth. Yeah. And that's where we really went with that.
Yeah. So you make a mention that we are missing many of the stones we're supposed to have in our church communities right now.
Yeah.
I mean, not just specifically ours. We know that ours is missing.
Yeah, whole world.
But the church in larger formats is missing a lot.
Not just small churches. Every single church is missing some of the stones that I believe that God called to those specific places. They're not there for one
Right.
reason or another.
So basically, what we're trying to say here is if I don't understand where my role is, how I need to fit in, that I am progressively looking to figure out how to support someone else and in peer roles or maybe even just mentor roles, that support system, or figuring out how to even become a disciple myself. I can't go and disciple other people because I myself don't have the foggiest clue of who I am,
Totally.
what my identity is,
Exactly.
and how to even pull myself together. You can't help somebody else with an oxygen mask until you put yours on first.
Right.
So,
And just so I want to make sure that people understand what you're saying, like the analogy of putting the oxygen mask, the way you're using it is you have to understand how God made you and what your role is and do it
right.
before you can do the parts you're supposed to do.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Yes. You don't want to like skip rungs on the ladder hoping to go places.
Yeah, we're not looking for rung
before-
skippers around here.
before you're
Obviously.
ready to. But I guess that's probably a whole different talk and speech. But the point is that we need to get ourselves together so we can therefore figure out what stone we are, what shape we are, and where we fit, and be a part of that structure. Because it isn't really about us. I
Yeah.
mean, it is about us, but it's about the bigger picture.
It's about us and the picture.
It's about the church building as a whole, the church building, being built up, I should say, not the building.
Yeah.
But like, you know, I think that anyone that has been in a ministry role or has served in capacities in any type of organization, really, it doesn't even have to be a church.
Right.
When you are missing the help that you need, you know it and you feel it and it strains you. It puts a lot of strain on you
Yeah.
because you want what you're doing to be successful. Your passion is to help make that successful.
Right.
And so we need each other to help make our organizations and communities and the church and our families and whatnot be successful. We need each other.
Yeah.
And so when we're all off in la la land,
Right,
living
totally.
our own lives,
Yep.
living apart from each other, just concerned about how to cope with whatever it is that we need to cope with that day. How is that being a living stone
Right.
in the church body as a whole?
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah.
Or even just recognizing that the stone needs to be healthy and not disintegrating.
Right. It's
can't-
disintegrating, same effect as removing it.
Yeah, exactly. So we got to make sure that our, what we're made out of holds up and holds together. And that means that we go after ourselves in a more aggressive way to get cleaned up and stable and put into a place of, that God would see us as a disciple.
Yeah. That's super good. Should we watch this clip?
Yeah.
Let's watch the clip.
So if we're made on purpose for a purpose before the foundations of the earth, it's really important that we understand what that purpose is. That's our rock. And we don't try to be the shape of the one next to us, above us or below us, or any other rock, no matter how cool it is. We need to be the one we were supposed to be. So here's the weird thing about it. If you're doing what God made you to do, that's worship. But if you're doing something he didn't make you to do, even if it looks really great, righteous, and holy, and you sound really good on stage, but it's not your rock, it's not worship. In fact, it's the opposite of worship. In fact, there's this concept that we've talked about before. I think Bobby and Becky both taught on it, about esteeming lightly the Lord. It's literally like purposefully saying, no, not good enough. So like not functioning according to our design is actually telling God, you know what, forget what you want. I have my own plan to worship you. But he made us for a specific reason. So like, that's literally telling him he's wrong.
So that's just, tying in perfectly with what we've been talking about. But I love that. I love the angle that I never really thought about it like this until the last few years, but when we're actually functioning according to the way God made us, and let's say that he made you to be a dentist and you're doing it like you are just doing it for the Lord, and you're bringing the kingdom mindset into every part of your dental practice, that's actually worship. I think that we get really stuck on worship as being able to sing like Brandon Lake, and it has nothing to do with that.
Right. No. Yeah, worship, I agree. I agree that many of us think in terms of the word worship, we're just associating it with music.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to miss worship.
Right.
Or I'm missing out on worship.
Right.
What are you missing out on?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just one little spoke in the wheel of worship.
It is worship, but it's not
one
the
little
only
spoke
worship. Yeah.
in the wheel of worship. So
yeah, like we will often call our whole Sunday service worship. I don't know if everybody really knows that, but like that's on design, like the ministry, the giving, you guys, the giving, the music, the message and how it applies and what Holy Spirit does, and coming together coming together to experience the presence of God and worship him through that entire experience over a couple hours. All of that is worship.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Monday, going and bringing the kingdom into whatever sphere of society you've been called to by the Lord, that is worship. And like caring enough about your children to have tough conversations with them that are uncomfortable, that is worship. So it's basically when we are functioning according to kingdom principles in a way that we are blessing the Lord according to our design, where we're worshiping him through what we're doing to honor him and praise him and give him glory and honor, that's worship. So the question you really got to ask yourself is if you don't feel like what you're doing in your work is actually like blessing the Lord, like you're doing it in such a way to honor who God is, then why not? Because we're called to worship through our work. That's what avoda means.
Right. So worship essentially is, when we think of worshiping something, it really means that we are surrendering to something.
Yeah, devoted and surrender.
We're devoted and surrendering to something. So when we think about, well, how do we see our lives as a complete worship to the Lord? That just means that we're putting him first and exalting him in everything that we do.
Yeah.
And everything that we say, everything that we're thinking, when we're involved with stuff, when we're at our job or wherever the case is that where we have him in the forefront of our actions, of how we treat people, of how we think about things, about, making decisions. We're to worship him in everything that we do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I think a lot of times people will be like, well, no, hold on, time out. How am I worshiping God by working at the coffee shop? Like how that's, pulling shots for a vanilla latte is not really worship.
mm-hmm.
What do you think about that, Prudence?
Well, somebody needs that latte, and somebody needs somebody to make that latte. So you're in a servant role in your job, making somebody a cup of coffee that maybe they need to sustain them for whatever it is that they're going to be doing that day.
Yeah. I think there's this part of scripture where it talks about the queen of, who was the queen that came and visited Solomon?
Sheba.
The Queen of Sheba. The Queen of Sheba comes and visits Solomon, and she spoke of the testimony of several things that were crazy. Like the testimony of the clothing that the servants wore was so incredible that it caused her to see a reflection of God through what their clothing was. And she also mentioned the staircase. Like she's going down the staircase, and the staircase was so incredible that she could just feel like it was a testimony to the God that Solomon was serving. And I think that a lot of times we forget that we are a reflection of the Lord. And if we were to think about that every person that we're interacting with at our coffee shop or whatever is maybe an auditor from heaven or something with a little clipboard, like how would we treat them differently? Like, oh man, they're going to report back to Jesus how good this latte is. Like what would we do differently? So we would, most of the time, I think most of us would say, well, I would do such a better job. But what would it look like in the world if everybody was doing that level, just serving each other? We begin to display a picture of what kingdom looks like, because we're taking kingdom principles and we're employing them into every part of our lives. And that is worship.
Mm-hmm.
And so you say, no, I'm not doing it so good so that I can look good. That's not worship. That's pride, and that's arrogance, and that's self-focused worship. That's like worshiping yourself. It's saying, I'm going to employ kingdom into everything that I do, so much that the Queen of Sheba is going to walk away and go, man, the God that Solomon serves is incredible. How do you know that? Because just look at the way his servants are dressed. What? Yeah. I mean, you walk down the staircase of the palace and you know the God that Solomon serves.
Mm-hmm.
You drink the latte and you're like, I know the God that this barista serves, kind of thing. Now that's a little cliche, a little silly, but also not silly at the same time. Like imagine what our world would look like if we were all doing it to that degree, like we were serving Jesus himself, if we served each other in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's a pretty big mindset shift. Mindset shift.
Yes.
That's what we're after. Shifting our wrong beliefs, wrong thinking, our ignorance about our identity of who we are. And yeah, that's an ongoing process for sure.
So as we wrap this up in 2 minutes and 9 seconds, Prudence, according to the timer, what would you say? How can we encourage people? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I would say that like if you're the person that is maybe having kind of an aha moment, that you should consider and take stock of where you are in your own personal life and how important is it to you to worship and surrender everything. That's a question that I think
we should be asking.
we should be asking all the time, because even those of us that try to practice this on a regular basis, we don't always make it perfectly.
Right.
And we have to go back and say, okay, didn't quite make it there, but
Right.
let's go back and revisit this, because it is something that we have to ask ourselves daily.
Yeah.
It is daily dying, basically. So,
Dying daily.
Yeah.
Check it
Dying daily to yourself. Sometimes we forget to kill that. Use the kill switch.
That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. I really feel like this is a message for right now. I feel like it's something that we should be encouraged by, because the Lord has provided a way. God's provided a way for us to actually worship him through doing what he made us to do. And so that's just amazing. Satan's after it. He wants us to be distracted. He wants us to not fully step into what he made us for. So we need to know that. We need to be wise of his devices. And so I would just encourage you, as you're kind of thinking through this process. So first of all, go watch the whole message. It's absolutely worth it. I think it's a very important word for now. You can find that on eaglemountain.global, along with other episodes of Together We Build, as well as other amazing content from Eagle Mountain TV, as well as this message. We'll put it in the show notes as well, but go check it out. We would love your support. You can support this program and others by clicking.
You can be a stone.
You could be a stone in the wall.
That's right.
You can be stone in the wall by supporting this program and others, and everything that we're doing at Eagle Mountain. It's expensive. It's difficult to produce stuff like this. It takes a lot of resources and time and effort. And you can help support this and other programs by going to Eagle Mountain, clicking on the give button, and helping support what we're doing here. We also love to hear from you guys. So let us know. Reach out to us. Hit the contact button. Reach out to us. Also, if you go to chrisandprudence.com, which, by the way, you need to, okay, there is merch there. There's links to Prudence's books. And what else is there? All kinds of stuff. Amazing things, right? So go there, check that stuff out. And for now, I think that's it, right?
I think that's it.
All right. We will see you guys on the next one. See you. Thank you for watching Together We Build with Chris and Prudence. To learn more about this and other amazing programs, visit eaglemountain.global. To learn more about Chris and Prudence and the ministries they serve, visit chrisandprudence.com.